Hey, what's up guys? It is Mark Yoon, and today I'm bringing another hopefully exciting video. So what I got for you today is my As Promised mini documentary on Necrid. So we're going to be covering the who's, the whys, and all that good stuff. And when doing research for this, I came across a lot of interesting information that will be going in a future video. Next week, we're going to be doing some fun stuff, so stay tuned to the end of this video to find out what's going to be happening next week. Alright guys, now without further ado, let's get into our big monstrous guy. So Necrid is obviously a playable character in SOULCALIBUR. He was created by Todd McFarlane in collaboration with Namco. This was for, obviously, he put it into the game for Spawn. He was asked to create the character and design the character, but actually he was given like symmetry details or whatever, but we'll get into that. He also created the action figure for the characters created by McFarlane Productions, because Tom McFarlane owns a toy company. And not only did he create a Necrid figure, he actually created a separate Necrid figure, but he created a series of figures for SOULCALIBUR 2 as well. I personally had the Spawn figure, and I had a few others. I think I had Mitsurugi and maybe Taki, but yeah, McFarlane was pretty much in it for the toy, but We'll obviously get more into that as well. Though designed and named by McFarlane, Necrid's concept and physical build were outlined by Namco, who aimed to target North American audiences with the character. Necrid's spoken lines in the game are unintelligible, and no voice actor was ever credited for them. Obviously, like, Namco thinks that, like, superheroes from America and villains are just, like, big, bulky, like, monsters. It's kind of a stereotype, mainly a stereotype from the 90s. It's not even current, but I mean, obviously SOULCALIBUR 2 came out like in the very early parts of the 2000s. I think it was around like 2003 to 5, something like that. But as a comic book artist myself, like, there's a lot more nuance to it, and obviously, like, we can get into that another day, but it's just a stereotype that was applied to us, and we'll see how the reception was for the character as we get further down into the video. According to the game's backstory, Necrid was once a human warrior. He sought and found the cursed sword Soul Edge, only to be pulled into the dimension that the sword spirit inhabits. Escaping the dimension with his body drastically mutated, his memories and sanity initially lost. He now wields various forms of energy as weapons, while searching for fragments of the shattered Soul Edge that soothe the pain caused by his separation from the dimensional energies. The characters receive a very divisive response. While some sources criticize the character's design for clashing with the game's aesthetic, some others praise the visual appeal of the character when in motion. Some have called Necrid one of the best characters introduced into the series, and others deem him one of the worst. Series producer Hiroki Toriyama learned that comics creator Tom McFarlane was a fan of the SOULCALIBUR series, and McFarlane had praised the character's designs. In 2003, McFarlane was interested in creating a video game based on the Spawn comic book franchise. His search for a developer resulted in a deal with SOULCALIBUR publisher Namco. When the topic of toys arose into discussion, McFarlane and Namco had reached an agreement to release a line of action figures based on SOULCALIBUR 2 action figures. Afterward, Namco proposed that the company design a new character for the video game console ports of the game, an idea that McFarlane accepted because he considered it an opportunity to create a toy based on Necrid's finished design. Necrid's design targeted North American audiences, specifically fans of American comic books. Although McFarlane received most of the credit for the character, Necrid was a result of a collaboration. Namco outlined the unnamed character's traits, such as his in-game role and physical build, and McFarlane Company completed the design. As a result, both companies held partial copyright for Necrid, with Namco's rights to the character as a derivative work of McFarlane's illustrations. Toriyama announced Necrid early in SOULCALIBUR 2's production for the Xbox in an interview with Japanese magazine Famitsu. Text in each version of the game's box art also drew attention to Necrid. Namco later featured the character in promotional items such as artwork, screenshots, and animated emoticon, which they distributed to IGN and other news outlets. McFarlane Productions distributed 1,000 copies of a limited edition lithograph to promote the character at E3 2003. Illustrated by Greg Capullo, the lithograph features comic book rendition of Necrid fighting Spawn in one of the game's arenas. In August 2003, Namco included the sculpture of Necrid as a set of 5 based on different SOULCALIBUR 2 characters. The figure was based on Necrid's secondary outfit. It stood 6 inches tall with a base and allowed for adjustment of its head and arms. McFarlane Productions later gave the sculptors copies of the game as prizes in a contest after naming the character. Critical response to Necrid varied. University of Delaware professor Rachel Hutchinson cited him as an example of the cultural stereotype of human versus monster, a mutated or damned creature deviant from the human form. That the game's human characters are expected to vanquish a staff writer for Game Now magazine called the visual design silly and compared the character to an old-school He-Man character, but added that Necrid's gameplay was decent. Another game, GMR, described him as an example of a bad American comic book design. IGN's Kaiser Huang called Necrid a disappointment and questioned the character's design in comparison with the others in the series. He also felt that Necrid was filler rather than a complete character himself. GameStop made similar comments in the review of the game, as well as GameSpy. IGN's Xbox article editor described the character's inclusion as an unnecessary marketing ploy, and would have preferred new characters made without McFarlane's involvement. The editor also wrote that Necrid did not vibe with the rest of the cast. OneUp.com's podcast Retronauts criticized the design and wrote that the character's name was used as a synonym for shitty. They further added that McFarlane had tainted the game with Necrid's inclusion, with host Jeremy Parish stating, "I could close my eyes and draw a better character." In a retrospective of the series, Joystick used him as an example of the series succumbing to commercial gimmicks, citing its design and reviled that Necrid was either too strong or too weak a character to play as, depending on who someone asked. As far as the people's criticisms, these gaming outlets, I really don't like professional critics because they are there literally to nitpick things. And when someone says something stupid like a character's design is shitty, that's based on their subjective opinion. And also the Jeremy Parish stating he can draw a better character with his eyes closed. Well, he didn't, and he didn't get paid to do it, so he's full of shit. So I don't understand why they go out of their way to just try and demean things like that. If you're giving constructive criticism, that's one thing, but if you're just outright blatantly giving opinions, then that's no place for a critique. So I really wish these game journalists would have better value for themselves and ostensibly try and create better material for people, because it's not going to help people decide whether or not a character is good or viable, or whether they like a game or not based on just their subjective opinion. That's like saying that you literally don't like the entire character of Taki just because she wears a skin-tight suit. It's stupid. So it has no place for me, and I don't think other people should listen to those people as well. And also, the reason that why he was in the game was mainly monetarily convenient for both sides and both parties. And next week, we're going to get into the monetary things around Soul Calibur as a franchise, Bandai Namco's involvement, Namco before they joined with Bandai, and also Soul Calibur 6 and how well it did and was received. So look forward to that next week. But moving on, we're going to continue with the positive reviews. Other reviewers praised the character's gameplay and design. An editor for the video game website GameZone wrote that his attacks compensated for his appearances and described him as cool, while also praising both his weapon and fighting style. Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb of X-Play stated that while Necrid did not seem to fit the aesthetic, the character did have some appeal. See, if you notice, when a lot of these characters, these people are saying negative stuff, it's usually often just spitting out the same jargon that other journalists before them have also done, because they all want to fit a conjoined narrative. So they basically don't want to get called out and lose ratings over an opinion that might be adverse to the popular opinion. So if they think that that's what people feel, they're going to feed the people what they want because it's fake populism. So even though that people may have had a different idea of Necrid, or a majority of people may have had a different idea about the character, just because some journalist or critic put it and printed it first, then the rest of them are going to pick up and run with the same exact story. That's how it's been, that's how it's always going to be, and that's why I don't watch those things or read the critics. If you watch any of those professional ones, they could be a cool YouTuber, as soon as they get a job doing something else, they just totally sell out. But that's also neither here nor there. I can get into that in a separate video itself. Yu-Gi-Oh's Doug Truman stated Necrid's weapon had to be seen to be believed, and described him among other new characters as something spectacular to the Soul Calibur pantheon. Tim Rogers of a website Insert Credit called Necrid a work of digital art both in form and function, and added that as far as the console-only characters go, everybody wins with Necrid. Despite their negative remarks, an editor for IGN listed Necrid as 8th on their list of top 10 characters contributed to the Soul Calibur games by designers outside of Namco, and wrote that while they felt the character's gameplay was unbalanced, it added to Necrid's appeal. The editor wrote, "What do you expect from a man who shares a symbiotic relationship with the very energy that powers Soul Edge? If you need to clean house in Soul Calibur 2, Necrid was the man for the job." So now that we covered that, we're going to get into some more finer details about Necrid himself. Also, in the background, you'll be seeing gameplay that was created and submitted to me by Metal Raptor and also by SolarFlare95. So thank you, Matt and Steve, for submitting these gameplay videos, and Steve for uploading it for me on such short notice, and Matt for actually creating Necrid in Soul Calibur 6, and I think you did a good job. If you guys want to say thanks, drop in the comment section down below. They're always down there, so make sure you say thanks and follow them on their respective social media. Alright, moving on. As introduced in Soul Calibur 2, Necrid is a warrior who fought and defeated the former wielder of the cursed sword Soul Edge, and was pulled into the dimension where the spirit sword Inferno inhabited. Instead of battling Inferno, he fled, and became trapped in the dimension for years. Warped physically and mentally by the dimension as a result, he escaped during the closing events of Soul Calibur, but quickly found that, with the dimension's energies, he experienced intense pain and would eventually die. Attacking travelers as he perceived as enemies, he happened upon a fragment of Soul Edge and felt his pain dampened. Pursuing other fragments of the sword, he encountered Talon, who was also seeking them, and helped defeat the resurrected Inferno. His memories and sanity restored by the battle, Necrid closed the entrance to the void, trapping himself within. To date, Necrid has only appeared in one game of the Soul Calibur series, being Soul Calibur 2. He did not appear in the original arcade version, but was later added to the game and ported to the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox video game console versions of the arcade. When he asked whether the character would return in Soul Calibur 3, Toriyama replied, "Necrid has gone on a vacation." When the subject came up again during the production of Soul Calibur 5, game director Daishi Oshidama responded via his Twitter account, "To be honest, that would be too hard to do because of copyright issues." Coming down to everything is always copyright. That's why I didn't want to include Necrid in my guest or bonus characters, because he doesn't really fall into either category. He's partially owned by Namco and partially owned by McFarlane Productions, so they would have to literally do an expansive rewrite of a contract just to have him included in the game, and it's just not viable to keep doing that for every single version of the game, especially when Project Soul has such a low budget for these recent games, and we'll get into that next week. Now, let's just go into Necrid's gameplay to round out the end of the video. Using fighting skills Toriyama described as horrific splendor, Necrid attacks using Maleficious, a transforming physical manifestation of the energy of Soul Edge. Maleficious by channeling it through his hands to form various bladed weapons, able to set them aside or reabsorb them as needed. Necrid can also attack using other forms of energy, such as Ignis Fatuus, Aether, and Chaos, represented in the game as equipable alternate weapons with variable effects and attributes. Necrid also incorporates acrobatics into his fighting style through a variety of flips and kicks. Several of Necrid's attacks duplicate physical motions and properties of attacks used by other characters in the series. However, each attack causes his weapon to extend, form, and then retract into his hands, resulting in different visual cues than any other move that they derive from. Some attacks combine elements of two other existing characters' moves. For example, Dragon Blaze begins with one attack used by Maxi and ends with another from Nightmare. Despite this fact, some moves are unique to Necrid's repertoire, such as Elder Topaz, an attack stance that allows you to use an altered set of attacks for a short time, and Void Cannon, which creates a small explosion on the ground at varying distances from Necrid. All in all, I want to say that my opinion of the character is, it's overall fair. Unlike the clowns who were writing negative reports about him not fitting the aesthetic of the game, I think that's exactly why he fit. We've seen in later iterations of the Soul Calibur franchise, Soul Edge always corrupting people and getting them to look different from other characters in the series. And I don't understand where they get their information from. If, like, we're talking about original Soul Calibur as well, if Necrid doesn't fit in Soul Calibur 2, then why do we have, like, a ghost pirate and, like, a giant lizard that uses swords and talks? So, wherever they think that the aesthetic is based on, like, the creator's design and vision for, like, a piece of art. That's how it goes with anything. Like, you can literally say that anything is out of place if it's out of place to you, but their opinions don't deem the actual future of the character themselves. It would be nice to see him back, but also there's a reason why we have character creation, so we can kind of put him in, I guess, albeit a Walmart version of the character. But with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end because I feel like it's drawled on long enough, and I don't want to keep you guys listening to this kind of stuff with just opinion-based. So let me know in the comment section down below your actual opinion of Necrid. Let me know if you liked the character, if you found him aesthetically pleasing, did you use the character at all? If so, how often did you use him, and did you find him difficult to fight against? I thought he was pretty balanced, but apparently a lot of people didn't. Also, let me know your memories with using the character. I think that would be a good topic of discussion down below. And don't forget to thank Metal Raptor and Solar Flare 95 for their contributions to this video. I really appreciate it and wouldn't be able to complete it on such short notice without their help. And with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to a close. And as always, see you tomorrow. Peace.